invite you folks. Oh, okay. All right. Should I reintroduce her? Yeah, reintroduce. Okay. Hi, everybody. So I'm really proud to introduce to you my dear friend Caroline Cosgrove, who is our New York State Apiary Inspector, and she is for our region for Greene County and Southern tier, but you can talk more about that. And she's going to do her talk about what's going on right now, and then if you folks have any questions, and she's also here to she'll be here for this evening. If anyone does want to register with the New York State Agri Markets for their inspection in October, but she'll explain that when we're okay. So everyone, let's give her a big. Oh, don't be bad. Get on up there.
I need to be on radio. Point the camera on you. So I cover Greene County, 37 counties, it's a large territory. There's actually now 5 inspectors that handle New York State. The reason why I'm here tonight to speak is I know that the email was sent out from Matt, who is the interim covering for Annie while she is on maternity leave. And there are some confirmed cases of American foulbrood in Greene County, and then there was an email that was also just sent out that we do have a confirmed case in Albany County. And I know there were some questions as to why it's communicated the way that it is and why it is. The reason why it's actually done that way is because if you think about bees, they do travel, and this time of year, if there's no forage, it could be traveling as much as 5 miles. So I live in Greene County and in Wyndham, and they said that we found foulbrood in Hunter. I might not be as proactive or diligent in doing the brood inspection in my colonies as they should be. The other reason is because of, I think a lot of us know, many beekeepers have bees that are in different towns throughout the country. So just because I might not have it in my colonies in Wyndham doesn't mean that I don't have a positive infection in my colonies that might be in Hunter or Cosgrove or possibly even another county. That is why I'm thinking it that way. It's also to protect the integrity of the beekeeper. New York State, when they introduced the requirement to have any beekeeper register their yards, they knew that they were up against a little bit of a pushback or a fight. I think by nature, beekeepers tend to be protective of their yards, rightfully so, and also maybe a little bit hesitant of government, again, rightfully so. So to come up with a way that works best with the individual beekeeper while also protecting the industry more, they decided that the best thing to do is that they would communicate the county, which is also, if you register, the only thing you need to provide to the county. Your name, contact information, and the county where you have bees, you don't need to provide the actual location or address of the yard. And the reason it's really important is, as maybe you've seen over the last couple of days, is that when we need to communicate the information, if we don't know the beekeeper who is in that area, we can't. But I do want to thank this group and some other beekeeper groups have been communicating information with their members, which has been extremely helpful. There have been some beekeepers outside of the area that have requested inspections, which is great. Just a few quick things. I think I don't really need to go into what American foulbrood is. I think most of us know. It is a highly contagious spore that can stay dormant in equipment for up to 70 or longer years. I actually found out through this process is I have a hive box here, and I wanted to, as the inspector, test this box. I think not enough spore matter in the actual box for a result to come back positive from the lab, but it could actually be contaminated with foulbrood. And what happens is, so a bee will contact with spore and then go and feed a larva. And that is how the virus starts to regenerate. When it's actually, I guess, going through the metabolism of the larva. So you could find it in the wax frame. It's active in honey. So if you're moving honey frames to different yards, different colonies, if you are, and I hate to say this today, but if we're using shared equipment, we could be sharing foulbrood. But we've gone through the entire process of how we properly clean the equipment. And if there would be any concern as far as there being anything shared today, but it is something that's really important to keep in mind. If you have bees and you're moving them between, if you're moving colonies between yards, if you are managing other people's yards and you're going from one yard to the next, really important to make sure that you are properly cleaning your equipment. For the state, we scrub everything down to remove wax, percolates from our hive pools. We use alcohol, we use bleach water, we use nitrile gloves. We don't use those leather gloves. Leather gloves are extremely porous, and you can hold on to towards foulbrood in those gloves. So it's recommended to not use those. Just a couple of things about how the beekeeper that had the positive case of foulbrood didn't know that they had foulbrood. It wasn't the reason why I went for the inspection. It was just a general inspection. They've actually never registered before. So it was their first time they were registered. It was the first time they were having an inspector on their property. And this is a strong colony. There was, it was 2 deep brood chambers. It was 2 honey supers. The activity at the landing board, it looked like it was a healthy colony. Remove the supers, we go into the brood nest. The first thing that we notice is that there's a spotty brood pattern. This time of year, it's very normal to have spotty brood patterns. There could be backfilling with honey. The queen, maybe you did a mite treatment, a formic treatment or something, so that could slow the queen down. So you might see a spotty brood pattern. If you have a high mite count, there might be a spotty brood. So looking further, why is that? We started to see some larvae that looked like it was kind of just like collapsing in the cell. There were perforations in the wax capping. Some of the wax cappings were like concave, like collapsing into the cell. And again, if you're not thinking that it might, I'm the type of person that is always like, but if you're not that person, you might just think like, oh, it might be mice. Maybe they are uncapping a hygienic response. So then when we pull back on the cappings, that's when we see it's like a cafe latte type of coloring of the larva. And taking a Q-tip and pull it out, and it's a little ropey. There's no smell. You can smell as though there was anything that's decaying, which is how American foulbrood to me. Because I think that at the time that this was found, it was early. So later that the virus or the bacteria takes over the colony and starts to kill the larva is when you start to smell the actual decaying of the larva. Didn't see anything like as far as scales in the frames. And then at that time, so now as the inspector, we have these field test kits. I don't know if Hudson Valley still carries them for out of stock. Yeah, I don't even think that we can get them anymore, so we don't use them very often. But we did a field test on this colony. It came back positive. We have to take a sample. We have to send it to the lab. And then at that point, that colony itself gets quarantined. And now we do a full inspection of the entire operation of the beekeeper. So we're going to every one of their colonies, full inspections of the brood colony every single frame. And they do, currently it's a 2-month perimeter. Every beekeeper in that area has to get contacted, and they are required to allow an inspector to inspect the colony. If it comes back negative, no, we take her off, and the beekeeper's allowed to go on their way about their business. If it comes back positive, that colony itself, all of the equipment is to humanize the bees, seal everything up first, euthanize the bees, and the colony has to be burned and buried. If there's a feeder or anything, that has to get burned and buried also. I know that there was some comments on the Facebook page about like, oh, just clean just clean the boxes. That's not what New York State allows. The entire colony has to get.
There could be spores. And then, there was talk about, well, if you take a blowtorch, you char the inside, that will kill any spores. Is that true?
So I believe that there are certain countries that allow that. New York State is not one that does. I don't trust myself to do an oxalic acid like vaporization in the hive because I don't know that I'm going to do it right. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't trust myself to blowtorch the inside of the box long enough at the temperature long enough to make sure that I'm not going to do anything to cause harm to my or anyone else's bees for that matter.
At the last outbreak of burning the hive, we learned to clean our equipment with a torch every time we had an empty super or an empty box, and I still do that. It's part of integrated pest management. It's too late once you have it, but it might be something that helps in keeping your machine. But then again, you have the frames, right? It's just a box.
Yeah, it's in the equipment. It's on your jacket, your clothes. I felt like I was living COVID all over again the last couple of weeks, like taking all my clothes off outside, scrubbing my boots down. I don't want to. Bill?
Hi, I have a few questions. Yeah. So how many hives were in that yard?
More than 10.
More than 10. So it's not all gloom and doom.
No, it's not. And that's, I think, something that's really important. We do expect that there will be some carryover. And so what the state also does is if you have a colony that tests positive in your operation, for 2 years, you're required to go back in to test until you no longer find positive.
Can they extract the honey and label it only to human consumption?
Yes. So foul brood spores do not do anything to harm people. But I would not do anything with that honey to either feed your bees or use those frames to feed your bees. But New York State, all of that has to get burned. So we wouldn't let you extract the honey first.
Yeah, only the infected hive.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the other hives that aren't quarantined.
Yeah.
There's a couple more.
Go ahead. What else you got?
I know, but I know, I'll play devil's advocate.
So I don't really have all the answers. I
just that.
I thought that I would just go around and meet like really cool beekeepers and try to do that like makes them so successful. Oh my God. Yeah.
So,
You can. It's a big fire. Everything gets burned from that hive.
So do we know where it came from? Did it come from finished equipment?
So I would say that in this case it's most likely, and I don't know that it was that the beekeeper themselves that reused equipment, but I would say that it was from someone finding equipment. So something I've spoken to people like always ask questions. So how did you get into beekeeping? How long have you been doing it? What's your favorite part? People buy houses up here and they find boxes, bee boxes in their backyard. Now they want to be a beekeeper and they don't know to not use that equipment.
I think that's what happened in this situation.
How inspected are nukes and stuff when they come in and package be non-inspected? Does every single one get tested?
So I see that was the question. So bees that are sold in New York that were like New York bees have to be inspected in New York. Bees that are coming in from another state are inspected at the other state. If we're shipping bees out, they have to get inspected, like keeping. When we're inspecting someone who is selling bees, It's usually like 20% of their operation that we have.
Only 20%.
20%. It's a large number for people that are selling bees.
Well, there was three cases of foul breed in 10 colonies. So they would
We would find it.
find it
Good point, Bill. Yeah.
and try it.
When you sample it to test at the site, you had the kitten, what are you sampling, larva or a cell?
So it's very similar to like the PCR test, but instead of putting it up your nose, you put it inside the cell. Yeah.
Oh, so
and-
it's a swab. It's not
yeah.
like-
And another thing that I learned through this process is like I've had European foul brood in my operation, and I got a test kit from Hudson Valley Bee Supply, and I tested the larva, like all of the worst parts of the colony. But if you do that with the European foul brood, a lot of the times you'll get a negative response back, European foul brood, because the bacteria has already transitioned to something else. But American foul brood, you need to test the grossest parts of the larva.
So, and then can beekeepers send bees to be tested, or is that the inspector that comes in and says, okay, we're gonna send these out, develop them?
I believe that anybody can send samples. You will pay for them, we will not.
And what do you send?
So you either do, it's called like a smear. So you like swab inside the cell, or you can send wax samples.
What happened, is Belleville still viable?
They are. Yeah, or at least, at least the next year.
Is it a seasonal thing that we should look out for?
So Cornell recommends that you do field bird inspections 3 times a year. I would strongly suggest everybody, minimum do in the fall. It's the hardest time on your colony. Especially now is the forage. I don't know where everyone is, but we're kind of like in between goldenrod, in between knotweed. They're traveling further. They're probably getting rubbed out. Yellow jackets and wasps are out attacking people.
Yeah.
What is the percentage like you would find over?
I don't know.
There's only been 2 cases so far.
There's 2. It's in 2. I don't remember how many colonies specifically, but there's other. It's in a county in New York. These are just the ones that are closest.
It's highly contagious, and like the example of 3, 5, 7, 10. And he said it's not all doom and gloom, but it's highly contagious if you're not an expectation that within a very short amount of time, the rest of Europe might actually be too.
Yeah, I think it's very lucky the timing that we went to yard. Again, this is someone that never had inspections before.
So this would be something you have to separate out immediately.
Yeah, as soon as we see it, we send the sample to the lab. We can give the beekeeper the option to, at that point, euthanize the colony without having the positive Belleville lab results. But we could get a false, positive in the field. So they want to make sure that it, at least we give the beekeeper the option.
Question?
Yeah.
And how long when you send the test, how
I think it depends. They definitely prioritize Belleville. I have some samples that we're still waiting on results for that are, other things. So I think we got a positive result within 5 days. And that's selling it from up to Belleville. So I think it was 7 within a week. Yeah.
I'm just curious about the logistics of how you actually quarantine a hive. Because anything like the bees have to go out and defecate.
Yeah, so quarantining meaning that the beekeeper cannot move the colony, they cannot move the colony, they can't be honey off that colony, they can't move the bees can't take it out of that yard.
Just the entrance.
That's not something that's required. No. Again, this was a strong.
So asking about strong colonies, so how do we visually tell? I'm a new beekeeper. My hive is a little wonky because I've gone through bear attacks and everything else. So how do I tell? And I only have one. I think it's like, I don't know, do I reach out to an inspector?
Are you registered?
No.
Wow.
I didn't know I had to register. But no, I will register.
But you don't have to be registered to request someone to come out. So just.
But even for one call, it means.
Yeah. I personally, I like going to, talk to new beekeepers and, kind of, again, it's like asking a lot of questions and then going through the hive with them and showing them different things they might not be aware of. We're all learning, and I don't think that you ever stop learning. I'm sorry?
How long after you request when you get an inspection?
It depends, I think, on like the workload. So again, like there's only 5 beekeepers in New York State. The last time I checked on the New York State Department of Ag and Markets, we have like listed how many registered beekeepers there are. It said 3,000. What? I mean, there's almost like 3,000 people in this room. I feel. We don't have there's not a large representation of beekeepers that are actually in the state that are registered for bees.
For example, your region encompasses,
Greene County, that's that county.
yeah,
And that
Long
area
Island.
was actually there. Far north he was traveling, but then on down to Long Island. So, and if there's no other reason to register, and I don't want to make this about like, oh, everyone has to register, but if there's no other reason to register, it's you help to fund a program that's benefiting you. If they don't know that they have 80,000 beekeepers in New York, then they think that 5 sectors fine.
yeah.
Well, that's another problem that the state association's been having, is trying to go to legislation and saying, hey, we have such and such amount of beekeepers. There's no. And how much funding we can get for research. And, this whole thing with Beltsville Lab closing next year, maybe, that maybe we can keep it open. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe the funding could shift from that to maybe out to Scott, and Scott could do the tests, but not knowing how many hives we have repping in New York, we can't get funding. So I encourage everybody to register. The state doesn't have money to come over